Today we're going to be doing another bracket. The last one I did, 64 player, best player in the NBA bracket, I want to say around a week ago. And, some people watched it, so we're going to do another one. We're going to be doing best NBA players under the age of 25. There's always so much excitement surrounding the young players in our league. This is about how good these guys are going to be next year. Or like right now. This is not about how good they're going to be. Who's going to have the better career or any of that. It's not about potential. It's just about right now. As usual, I am going to buzz through the easy ones. Okay, yeah, I'll give you a little analysis on some of these. I know I'm going to pick DeAndre Hunter here, pretty much just because we haven't seen Jonathan Isaac play basketball in 2 years. Not that hard for me. Let's just keep it rolling. I do think that Deni Avdija is primed for kind of a breakout season next year. I think I saw him playing for the Israel team over the summer, and I think there's a level of mental toughness and growth that we're going to see him pretty locked in next year. He's already a really good defensive player, so maybe he can kind of provide something more on the offensive end of the court this year. But at this current moment, I love me some Saddiq Bey, man. Here's another interesting one. Gary Trent Jr. is, he can definitely be an explosive scorer and catch fire from three, but man, Tyrese Maxey might be the fastest player in the NBA, and he is an elite three-point shooter already. So just from a scoring perspective, I'm going to go Maxey. Fuck. There is a massive hype train right now behind Scottie Barnes. I think a lot of people think that he is going to take a massive leap, maybe this season going into year 2, maybe going into year 3, maybe going into year 4. Regardless, or maybe he just gets better every year. People are so high on him. I think that's specifically Raptors fans. Raptors fans can get a little bit carried away sometimes. I can't just disregard the season we just saw from Jordan Poole. In the absence of Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, he was phenomenal all year. That's just not the Golden State Warriors being able to plug their players into a culture that allows them to play exactly how they should be playing, caters to their skills in the flow of their off. Jordan Poole is just, as an isolation scorer, he had some moments. He was damn near unstoppable last season. So I'm picking Jordan Poole. Scottie Barnes, maybe at the end of the day, he's the better player. Probably good chance he will be. This moment, I'm going to the pool party, baby. All right, this is a weird one. We might never know if Obi Toppin is any good. We might not. We are putting that up to Tom Thibodeau to hide Obi Toppin from the world. He might be fucking great. He had a 40-point game last year, didn't he? But as long as Julius Randle's on the team, Tom Thibodeau cannot figure out a way to increase Obi Toppin's role. We are being robbed. I think that he's a really exciting player when we get to see him. We just never get to see him. But he could be a great player in this league. Austin Reeves coming out of his rookie year, it's a little bit different. Being just such a role player all year, just a 3-and-D guy. And then he had that game at the end of the year. It was one of those games where either team was playing their starters against the Nuggets, and he had a damn near 40-point triple-double or something. I'm going to go Obi Toppin, I guess. I don't know. None of these guys are going to make it to the next round anyway. Respect Jared Allen. He would have made it far in this if he was, not going up against Zion. Same thing with Jaren Jackson. This is an interesting one right here. As a Bulls fan, I can't wait to see season 3 of Patrick Williams because I think that he's ready to take a leap into that 15 points per game area, and he's going to be one of our best defenders. Definitely the guy that's going to be guarding a guy like Giannis, KD. Precious Achiuwa, he's not going to have that same level of role. He's going to be coming off the bench. But he has shown some flashes of just unbelievable potential because he is built like a 4, but being able to dribble the ball and shoot sometimes, just out of nowhere. Being a switchable defender, incredibly physical player, athlete that can grab boards. The Raptors like their they like their big versatile forwards. I gotta go with my team, you know what I'm saying? The Injury Brothers, no, I'm just kidding. We've already seen Michael Porter Jr. at the NBA level have some really good moments, stretches. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be a force for sure. I think the same can be said for Chet. Obviously, just haven't seen him at all in an NBA game. I'm going to go MPJ. I really like me some Jose Alvarado, but I don't know about, being a main guy on a team. He's Pat Beverly to me. Now, I don't really know what to do here at this moment. We're going to really see what Keldon Johnson's made of next year because he's going to be the guy in San Antonio, and honestly, I don't know if he's ready for it because he's never been featured in that type of role where he's going to be the guy. Pretty much just playing off DeJounte Murray last year. Great shooter. He's the better shooter out of these two players. I think I want to say he's the better rebounder too. I don't know if he's a better defender though. I might have to lean RJ for defense and facilitating and handling the ball maybe. But RJ Barrett, to me, I think they're really similar players because I don't think RJ Barrett is really a shot creator. On a good team, if he's going to be on a team that is really contending, he's not going to be featured as a guy that's out there to dribble pull-up shots. You know, he's going to be off the ball more as a cutter, shooter, give him the ball with momentum in a lane to the rim type of player because he does have that level of power. And maybe Keldon Johnson's the same way too. I think he's a better shooter. But honestly, comparing these two players, I'm having trouble. I don't care what Knicks fans say. You can be a Knicks fan in the comments watching this video. Fuck you. Go with Keldon Johnson. All right, we got into round 2, by the way. Now, Michael Porter Jr., very difficult to evaluate given the fact that he has not played in a long time, and it is really easy to imagine his career just being riddled by injuries and that being the downfall and that being the reason why he doesn't ascend to star status level of player. Because we do understand the ceiling. Playing as a number 2, a guy just running around, catching the ball, and just raising up, shooting threes over guys. I mean, no one's going to block this guy's shot. And I don't think this guy really sees defenders when he's shooting the ball. Unlimited confidence. He will take dumbass shots, and he will make them sometimes because I don't think he even gives a fuck if there's a defender in front of him. That being said, yeah, that can be to his detriment, and he really just hasn't shown an ability to guard, which is where Grant Williams easily gets the edge because Grant Williams is a premier defensive player in the NBA because he can guard pretty much 5 positions. I guess he's like baby Draymond Green. That's kind of the comparison a lot of people were making in the playoffs last year. Not nearly on offense, although he's a much better shooter than Draymond Green. He doesn't have any sort of role as a facilitator, as a shot creator. His only role in the offensive end is really catching and shooting a three-pointer, maybe getting an offensive rebound. And certainly the more physical player than Michael Porter Jr. It really comes down to what you value in a player. Also comes down to injuries. Like, if we're going with a healthy Michael Porter Jr. in his career, if Michael Porter Jr. is healthy, I think I'm giving him the edge. But he'd get played off the court on defense. Grant Williams, he'd get played off the court because he's not giving you enough on offense. But I really do value Grant Williams' defense. Because if Grant Williams was on a team that didn't have as many great defenders as the Boston Celtics do, his presence would be more valued because he does fit perfectly into that 3-and-D role, where pretty much everybody on the Celtics is a great defensive player. He doesn't stand out as much, but he's still one of the best defenders on their team. Porter will give you the three-point shooting all day. If he's healthy, he's a killer. Come on. No, it's not a question. I'm going to pick LaMelo Ball here, but I will entertain for a second. Anthony Simons, he might be a better scorer. LaMelo Ball is a great shooter. I don't know, maybe he can navigate. He's obviously the way better facilitator. But LaMelo's weakness as a scorer is his ability to finish at the rim. I mean, they're both just killers from behind the arc. Off-dribble three-point marksmen. But you got to give LaMelo the edge for his playmaking. Again, the answer is pretty obvious, but respect Tyrese Halliburton. He is going to have a good year next year with the Pacers. I think he's a great team leader. I think he's the better facilitator out of these two guys and floor general type player, whereas SGA, scoring machine, one of the best slashers in the NBA. So that's the pick. All right, guys, round 3. It's going to get serious. Again, I'll just entertain an argument for Jordan Poole, better three-point shooter out of these two guys. Honestly, as scoring the ball goes, you can have a conversation. Like, where is the limitation in Jordan Poole's game as a pure scorer? He can catch it from off the ball and shoot off the catch and shoot, but when he has the ball in his hands and he's running pick and roll or he's playing isolation, he is unbelievably hard to stop. Dribble moves package is incredible, and they're both very similar. The way they navigate in isolation, break down their defender with handle. I think SGA is more finesse than quickness, whereas Jordan Poole, he's just going to throw a million moves at you. That hesitation is absolute killer because he's going to shoot every time. With these guys, there's always another move coming, pretty much. There's no limit to the amount of dribble moves they can chain together to get the defender off guard. And they're both nightmare isolation matchups. So that is where I'll entertain it but we can't really definitively say Poole's a better player in anything outside of three-point shooting than SGA. SGA has to run a team where he's facing double teams all the time. He has to break down a defense as pretty much the only guy, the only initiator that can really do that and get a bucket and be relied on for that purpose on his team, on his shit team. Yeah, I think the debate ends there. Maybe if Michael Porter Jr. is playing a healthy season, we can entertain this. I was just so impressed with Tyrese Maxey last year, man. Even though Porter Jr. is a lot taller, they're both perimeter players because Porter is not really mixing it up down low. He can grab a lot of rebounds, but as a defensive player, it's not like he's an intimidating presence as a rim protector, help defender, or anything like that. And Maxey, his strength is not defense either. But as a guard, he does have the ability to break down defenders and not only shoot the three just as well as a guy like Michael Porter Jr., but also blow by defensive players and make passes, just make plays, make things happen. I think probably more reliable to have a positive impact on a game. All right, now we are getting into the meat right now. Now, again, this hinges on health more than anything else. Zion Williamson is just one of those guys. He already has the injury-prone label. He's missed so much time in the league, and I just haven't seen him play that much. He's always hurt. We got some young players in the league, just players in general in the league, that their ceiling is capped, or it is hindered, or they might not reach it, and the reason they might not reach it is just because of the fact that they might get hurt and derail their progress in improving themselves as a player. Zion Williamson, when he's on the court, he's an unstoppable scorer in the one-on-one. And Anthony Edwards' forte is scoring. From the scoring perspective, it is hard for me to put Anthony Edwards ahead of Zion because it's really hard to see a defense taking Zion out of a game. Anthony Edwards in the playoffs last year was fantastic. He was the best player on his team, and they gave the Memphis Grizzlies a scare in a series that went to 6, was extremely close. They choked a lot of leads. Is he to blame for that? Maybe on a level, but he's also one of the youngest players on their team. So it's to be expected. If you're young to play in the playoffs, your approach to the game might not be as matured as the older, more seasoned players, and that's just natural. But I'm not going to sit here and blame him for losing the games. Like, I don't think that was his fault foremost before anyone else. He was their best player in that series, and not necessarily expected to be. But he made big shots, he played great defense, and I think we're going to see another step, another leap this year, and he's going to make an all-star team. Zion, there's some aspects of the game there where I'm not completely sold because clearly he's not a jump shooter. And yeah, he might be able to get 30 points on a given night in the NBA against your regular season teams, Orlando Magics of the world, Indiana Pacers, Sacramento Kings, Houston Rockets. How about when you have to play the Memphis Grizzlies, Phoenix Suns, Dallas Mavericks, Golden State Warriors, LA Clippers, etc. in the NBA playoffs? And they pack the paint. They make you take those jump shots. Anthony Edwards, I just think of him as a player. We just don't really know what is his weakness as a player. Maybe it is his facilitating, but how much can that really be exploited? I guess you have to bring double teams to just see what happens, but if you're a championship team, you trust your teammates as an Anthony Edwards, you can get away with not being an amazing playmaker if you just make the right plays when you need to make them and still be that unstoppable scorer that you are. I mean, 25 points a game in the playoffs is no joke. On top of that, defense. We have seen him play defense, like guarding Ja Morant in the playoffs and just guarding in the playoffs in general. Anthony Edwards was impressive, and I think he will take another step in that category as well because he has all the tools to do so. Whereas Zion Williamson, we have seen him in the NBA not be a very good defensive player, whether that be because of a lack of quickness, switchability, just understanding how to guard the pick and roll, whatever. Not to say that he can't fill out and hit his ceiling on the defensive end and be a force there. We just haven't seen it yet, and I think we have seen Edwards farther along in that department than Zion Williamson. So the way I'm speaking right now, I think you can assume that I am leaning Anthony Edwards. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Trae Young, he got shut down by Miami last year because he didn't have anyone else to rely on. Miami Heat had a championship defense, and his second best player in that series was DeAndre Hunter. No one else to create anything. Not to say that he couldn't have played better, but I think that him having shortcomings in a situation like that is understandable. We cannot ignore the playoff run he had in 2021. Just unbelievable stuff in dismantling contending teams. Even the Milwaukee Bucks, Philadelphia 76ers, they couldn't do anything with him. This guy's as deadly of a pick and roll initiator as there is. Now, Brandon Ingram is a well-rounded star player, and he is the real deal. And we will see next year. They can win a playoff series next year, and there's a good chance he's the best player on that team. So, respect Brandon Ingram, but DeAndre Ayton is He's a promising young player. He probably gets overlooked too much, but the guy is strong in categories that he should be in as a big man in the NBA. High-end starting center. But Lonzo Ball is a healthy player, is such a game-changing guy, and he has all the intangibles. Not from a stat sheet's perspective. He is an elite catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. He is as good of a perimeter defensive player as there is in the NBA. He's as good of a pure passer as there is in the NBA. He's as smart of a player as there is in the NBA. And there is a reason why the Bulls were number 1 seed, and when he got hurt, season completely dismantled and fell off. He's a better player. I think most people in this scenario are picking Jason Tatum here over Ja Morant. I'm going to have to think it over for a second, because Jason Tatum is fantastic. What's the weakness in his game? Getting through contact. He's not the greatest finisher at the rim when he has to take contact, because a lot of times he'll hit a wall and he'll do like he'll fade a little bit. He's not going through guys. He's kind of going away from guys. He's got great touch, so he's able to do that. But he's not a premier finisher at the rim. He's as good of a three-point scorer as there is, besides Steph Curry. And he can handle the ball as well as anybody his size, pretty much. Ja Morant, on the other hand, is absolutely devastating. Pretty much an unstoppable force. Ja, if he didn't have to do everything for his team as an offensive initiator, he'd probably be a pretty good defensive player, but it takes a lot of energy to do that. As a team player, I think I like Tatum a little bit more. But what do I do, though? Because Jason Tatum got to the finals, and I can guarantee you that if Ja Morant was in the finals, he would have had a better performance than that. You saw what he was doing against the Golden State Warriors. But was Tatum hurt? Was it his wrist? Was it his shoulder? What was the problem? A lot of guys can say they were hurt, and maybe they weren't that hurt. He did have a meltdown in the NBA Finals. Jaylen Brown was the better player in that series, and you could argue Jaylen Brown was just as good as Jason Tatum in that Heat series too. He just got that dog in him, man. Oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm so worn out from this. I'm having to think so hard. I'm going to go Trae Young here. We know Anthony Edwards is going to take a step. Go SJ over Lonzo Ball. Luka's going to win this bracket, guys. This is the fucking work. Okay, I'm going to pick Ja because I did a top 5. I did a top 5 point guards video, and I had Ja 1 over Trae. And it took me like a day or two, multiple days, just mulling that over, just trying to decide if that was the right answer. I really couldn't. I really struggled because both amazing offensive players and then questionable defensive players. I came to the conclusion of Ja Morant because even going up against a team like the Miami Heat, if the Grizzlies had played the Miami Heat, I don't think he would have been in that same sort of box as Trae Young just because of his athletic ability. I think he would have been able to navigate through that in a way that Trae can't because Trae doesn't have that strength and explosion on that same level. Now, Ja can't shoot nearly as well as Trae Young, and we know that, but it's the transcendent attack the basket nature and paint scoring. It's just way more reliable than, everyone wants to shoot threes in the NBA now. But if you're a star player and you have to react to that level of physicality being increased in the NBA playoffs, getting your legs into those three-point shots when you have to dribble the ball all over the court every single possession and try that hard to find a shot every single time, getting your legs into those three-point shots is a lot more difficult, which is why a lot of times maybe someone like Trae Young, he has some great games where he's lights out shooting the ball, but then some games he doesn't have his legs in the same way. And if he's not on fire, he just doesn't have it from there. He's going to have to find other ways to impact the game, which he can do. But I think a guy like Ja Morant in these big games, it's like, you can't stop this guy from getting into the lane. He's going to get into the lane one way or another. It's about how you defend after that. If you're ready for him to be in the lane, and if you're ready to react to his move. And you can't go wrong, by the way, because that's the thing with these. If I'm spending fucking 5 minutes to decide on one of these, I'm not going to get mad one way or another. Because you can make a case for Trae Young over Ja Morant, and I'm totally cool with that. And I like that. I think that's an underdog pick. I don't think most people would necessarily do that. You got to watch that video, man. I had a better explanation in that video. If you really want this comparison, I think. So, from the beginning, I knew Luka was going to win this, but it was more about seeing where the other guys rank. You're under 25 players. Luka Doncic, easily. Okay, this isn't close. And it could have been Tatum here. A lot of people would have had Tatum here. He's the bigger player. He's a better defender than Ja Morant. Better shooter than Ja Morant. He's got some things over Ja Morant for sure. I think he's got a better team around him. And that helps him get to the NBA Finals for sure. And he's the face of that team. But Jaylen Brown is way better than any secondary option Ja Morant has. I mean, who's the best guy that Ja Morant can pass to say get a bucket? Dillon Brooks is a secondary initiator on that team. You're comparing Dillon Brooks to Jaylen Brown? Maybe Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart's a better facilitator than Dylan Brooks in his sleep. That's a guy that people were saying, oh, he's not a good enough facilitator. No one's taking the ball from John Morant. Even John Morant going up against Andrew Wiggins. He had a way easier time breaking down Andrew Wiggins than Jason Tatum did. Obviously, you have to evaluate these guys over a larger course of time, and we've only seen Ja in the playoffs for 2 seasons, and one of them was just 1 series. I think that's 3 series in total, and it was really 2.5 because he got hurt in that Golden State series. It would have been really interesting to see what he did, in games 4 and on in that Warriors series if he hadn't gotten hurt. Not to say that outcome would have changed, but certainly Ja Morant coming down 2-1 into game 4, if he's healthy, something serious is about to happen. I'll put the link in the description. Thanks for watching. And what matchup did I fuck up? Let me know.